So my son and I, Lewis, have always come to Foss to visit first my mom, and now that my brother's here, we try to come and visit him once a week if we can. And we've done a lot of things over that time. He used to just sit, and I would sometimes read to them together. And now that he's a little bit older, he'll sometimes read to my brother. So now we come, and Lewis will get a library book sometimes and bring it and then read it to my brother.
My favorite thing about my grandma was just that she kind of like had like a special feeling. Just kind of like special in a way, even though she couldn't really talk or move.
Well, my mom and dad were very devoted people. They were very devoted to each other and their family, and they shared a very deep Christian faith. So my dad was a minister all his adult life, and my mom was a school teacher. And then I think my mom started to come down with symptoms of Huntington's disease whenever she was in her 50s, probably mid-50s, something like that. And so then my dad kind of retired maybe a little bit early whenever he was in his early 60s to take care of her, spend his full time taking care of her. And so he did that for 30 years, I imagine, before it got to the point where he just couldn't take care of her himself anymore. And that first search had been rather exhausting, but one of the places we had visited before was Foss, and I found that there's just a lot of caring in the community, and people really make an effort to create a situation, create an atmosphere where people can do the best that they can really have a fulfilling life, even though they may be in difficult circumstances or near the end of their lives.
We've been married this year 43 years and have lived in a lot of different places, done a lot of things. So we were missionaries in Bangkok, Thailand from 1977 to 1988. After we left Thailand, we came back to Indiana and lived there for 12 years. We have 2 children. Sharon and her husband work in Indonesia right now. So, and then our son is a professor at St. John's Seminary at Boston College in Boston. We live far away. We don't see him very often, but we use Skype and we talk and play games with the children that way. His mother was at Foss, and his mother had Huntington's disease. We noticed some of the early symptoms when they visited us in Thailand, where she was resting on a bed and her toes were moving like this, even though she was fully at rest. And I began to see some of those symptoms in my husband.
Huntington's disease is a genetic disease, and it has to do with a certain gene that produces a neurotransmitter for your brain. And what happens is that your brain loses its ability to control the rest of your body, and so people lose control of their limbs. And by the time my mom died, she really couldn't do anything at all except just sit in a wheelchair. And she lived for a long time. She was one of the, to my knowledge, she was one of the longest surviving people with Huntington's. And I credit my dad for it because he cared for her. And even when she was at Foss, he came every day and would spend hours with her, reading to her and just sitting with her and kind of doting on her. But also, of course, the care she got at Foss was very good, and it really enabled that to happen.
So I was a full-time pastor when his symptoms began to get worse. His eating was difficult. At that time, he could still feed himself, but he was impulsive in his feeding. He was like a little child who sees all that food and wants to just stuff it in his mouth, and then he would choke. So he had to be helped in feeding. He was never sad about going into care. And the first place he went was into an adult care home in Sunnyside, Washington. And it was very hard for them to be able to feed him correctly. And he lost I think it was the first 6 months or so, he lost like 38 pounds in that place. And so, and I have felt that my job, and here at Foss I'm still the same, it's to speak for Marvin because he doesn't speak for himself. The average HD person who is not medicated moves so much. The books say they need 6,000 calories a day to maintain their weight. One of the positive changes since coming to Foss is that he has gained weight. He has food fixed in the way that he can eat. I've spent quite a bit of time with the dietitian Donna and Laura, who's one of the persons downstairs, and Sue, who's one of the cooks, and so here he's really gotten enough food. And if there isn't enough, I can always ask for something else and they get it, and that's been very, very good, very, very good for us. So I appreciate that.
One of the challenging things about Huntington's disease is that it takes away your voice. And my mother was, she had a very strong voice, and she liked to use it. She could talk quite a bit, but by the time that she came to Foss, she was hardly able to talk at all. And so, most people here, I don't think, heard her say more than 2 or 3 words, at a time. But I would have to credit the staff with also trying to listen to her and understand what she needed. I know one of the care workers, whenever my mom died, on the day that she died, we were standing there and she came in to give her condolences to us. And she said that a lot of people said that my mom couldn't communicate at all and that she was just like a vegetable that she couldn't understand. But she was the one who fed her, and my mom always really liked to eat. And she said, I knew because I could tell that she liked, whenever I gave her some food that she liked, I could tell that she liked it. So, I think that people were still listening to her and trying to let her express her voice when she lived here.